program.
Welcome to Positive Partners, and on this episode we're going to talk about health care and your dog. So stay tuned. Hey, I'm glad you could stay with us. Today we're going to talk about going to the vet with your pup, or your older dog, as it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I've been both ways, getting the shots for the puppies and getting through. I don't know if I've ever had the one illness where they go to the bathroom a lot. It's Giardia.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's tough to get rid of.
Okay. You mentioned something about money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And about insurance, and however, I don't know about most insurance. You can be sure that the insurance company is going to make more money than they're going to pay out. But on the other hand, it's a self-discipline, so you have something to back you up. And you brought up if you don't have that, yeah.
Big dogs mean big bills. I've had 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs at the same time and 4 dogs all at the same time. And getting flea medications and all those preparations for 4 large dogs is not cheap.
It really runs into a lot. Yeah.
Right.
And you mentioned, if insurance, look into it and see if it seems to fit for you. But you mentioned a good point that if you've got a dog, you're going to be spending money even above and beyond what you're spending for flea and worming kinds of things, heartworm prevention
But if you pick up a dog like mine, a Bernese Mountain Dog,
so you were saying to set money aside,
right?
Because
somebody
you're going to have a bill
who is prone to hip problems, prone to bloat, like a Great Dane or another large breed like that. Cancer is a large problem for that breed.
Goldens as well.
Yeah.
I can't
hip
swear to it.
Hip dysplasia,
depending on the dog. Right.
One of my friends had knee surgery 2 or 3 times for their pit bull.
Right. Dogs get ACL problems.
Right. So
little dogs can get musculoskeletal injuries because they look cute jumping up and down from 3 feet, but it's rough on them. Yeah.
So you can turn around one day and I owe $4,000 for surgery.
Yeah.
So either set aside money like every month, and I checked into about what it would cost for insurance for my guys. For one, a large dog was $80 a month. So plus or minus, if you can afford that, or maybe you want to put $50 aside into a savings account for that day. Which will come.
Yeah, which will come.
Goof up somehow.
Right. Yeah.
I think the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks of my Ulrich, we spent $5,000.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, man, I wish I should have had something.
Yeah, and it's like human care too. The oftentimes the most costly period of care is the last last bit of life, and so. I mean, it's important to have a realistic discussion with your vet about, where are we going to go with this, or
Because I talked about that because
the bills can be exorbitant.
8 years old when he had bloat.
Yeah.
He's 8.
Right.
And there are
no easy decisions. Yeah.
And OSU said the same thing, but in a previous time with Oliver was 4 when he had bloat. They said, I don't know.
Could you explain what bloat is? Because that kind of gets us into, situations where going to the vet is a good idea, but there's nothing extremely obvious that you just know something is not quite right.
Okay. So if you have a dog with a large chest, like a Berner and like the Great Danes, the big breeds, and even I think smaller dogs with bigger chests can get it.
And then horses get bloat.
Yeah. What happens, and with one of mine, they ate a bone too quickly. The other one drank, we went for a walk, he gulped down the water too fast. And when they gulp in a lot of air, they eat too fast or, something. And there's
Now, is bloat,
discussion about raised feeding bowls. It didn't help anything with mine. This was outside of the feeding. One was a bone, one was water.
Okay.
But what
Well,
happens is
yeah.
it's a gastric torsion, which
Okay.
means their stomach twists like a candy wrapper, and then it's cut off from the beginning and the end of the stomach, and then all that stomach gas and stuff builds up and expands
and blood flows.
and puts pressure on the lungs and the heart,
Okay.
and within 24 hours it can kill your dog. So
Right. So what did you see that just didn't look quite right? That looking back, you would have said, well, if you would have known that, maybe you would have.
well, I would have.
But
I recognize it right on
You
because
did,
I've always
okay.
been.
Okay, so what did you see that
I've always
was
been
a subtle indicator?
I've always watched for it because they do that.
Okay.
So we've tried to feed them
Yeah,
slowly.
but what'd you see?
They couldn't get comfortable. That's the first thing. They'll go over here and lay down, and then within 5 seconds they'll get up and go over here and lay down and get up, and they can't get settled. I'm not comfortable here. I'm not comfortable there.
Right.
And they keep moving around.
Okay, and that's a good point because dogs don't generally. They can be in pain, but they're not necessarily going to whimper
no,
with
in
pain.
pack animals,
Yeah.
they want to cover it up.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with me because
Right.
back when they were pack animals, if you're sick, we cut you from the pack because you're slowing us down and you're.
That's not actually true.
No?
I'm not trying to be, difficult, but that's not actually true.
That's what
In
I've heard,
intact
but-
family wolf groups, they will help feed less able family
Yeah.
members. Of course, there's because packs are simply mom, dad, the older siblings, and then maybe a generation or two of older siblings, because wolves don't become sexually mature until they're about 3 or 4 years old. At that point, just like a teenager, they're told it's time to leave, time to get your own territory. But until then, the survival of the whole group depends on cooperating with one another. Where you see, the kind of intense competition you're talking about is with groups of wolves that are not related. So it's more of a, it's a forced association, but it's not a natural
getting
grouping.
rid of the weak.
Well, I mean, it's just in those kinds of situations, it's everybody for themselves. You don't have the genetic motivation to take care of other members of your group because those genes are getting passed on. Where they're unrelated individuals, there's no advantage to taking care of another member necessarily. But anyway,
but
I wanted to
after
say
not
that.
being comfortable, what they do, they'll try to throw up. They'll start heaving,
Right.
and they may get something out, but probably not because the stomach has flipped.
Right.
And then
So nothing's passing, and right.
nothing's going this way or that way or
way,
anything.
right. Okay.
And so it's getting hard to breathe. They're starting to throw up. They're starting to drool, and just being really uncomfortable.
And at that
You
point,
have to
you've got to go ahead and say, hey, look, this just doesn't not look right in 2 or 3 or 4 different ways, and time to call the vet.
Right, and I had to call the vet in the middle of the night. It's like, hey, Ulrich
Yeah.
is not doing well. You mind if I come out? We put him on the ground, did an x-ray. It's like, you're going to Columbus.
Right, right.
So we went to Columbus, had the surgery, and
There we go.
all is well.
All right. Okay, so looking at your animal and keeping track of how they're doing, there's some just in the ordinary animal care day. You look at how are they moving. So you watch how are they unable to get comfortable. Are they able to get up and down from things?
Walking upstairs.
Walking upstairs. When they go to the bathroom, are they able to bend their legs? Hike their leg, bend their back legs, and so forth. So you're watching how are they moving. Another thing you're looking at is anything that's feeling weird on their body or looking weird, lumps and bumps, or their stomach.
Or if they're not, they're the same on both sides. They're not.
Right. If you have some asymmetry on one side of the body, like this is bumping out or something or other. Yeah. And then you look at what they're taking in and what they're putting out. How much are they eating? Are they keeping their appetite? Are they eating an unusual amount? Are they going off their food?
Another thing that hits, talking about eating and stopping to eat, if you have a puppy or somebody who likes to chew, they'll eat a sock or a shoe, and that'll stop up their gut.
Yeah.
And then you have to go get surgery. Get it out.
Right. And so on the point of chews, you really need to look and see how your dog or puppy handles the chew items that you have, and don't let them chew. Supervise what they're chewing until you're absolutely sure, that what they're chewing is going to hold up to their bite force, and they're not going to get a chunk of something. And if they like to, chew, rip stuff into pieces and swallow it, then pick up your shoes, pick up your socks.
If you don't want it chewed up, don't put it on your level.
Right. Until they get older, and then they
know better.
Yeah. And then another part is you picking up any weird smells, from their breath, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so here are the opportunities that you have to see what's going on. When you walk your dog and your dog's walking around, like you were mentioning, can they get comfortable in one place? Are they able to go up and down stairs? If you see a change in that, then that's worth, my dog is limping. My dog is not able to climb the stairs. My dog is not able to squat, to go to the bathroom.
And some of that may be age-related. Oliver is going to be 10 this year.
Right.
And so he's not leaping into the bed. He's not leaping into the car anymore.
And they get arthritis like we do.
Right. And so, he gets his front end in, I lift his rear end in. I did it with Ulrich.
Yeah.
It's just
so, and they may have arthritis, and if they have arthritis and they're really having painful joints, you're not going to hear them whimper, for whatever reasons.
Not like me.
Yeah, right. Well, that hurts. Oh! Yeah, right. We'll let people know because we want others to come to our aid and all that. So, walking around, watching your dog move. You're feeding your dog. Watch what they're taking in. Watch what they're putting out. Even if you've got multiple dogs, if they may well just choose a certain part of the yard, and as long as you're picking up your yard, you don't have to sit there and watch them. But
if it's a puddle instead of like a Hershey bar.
Right. Yeah, you want to see how their bowel movements look,
and
you
if there's blood in it.
Yeah.
Go.
Right. And how frequently are they going out? And if you have a routine with your dog, you're going to know when your dog is off routine.
And sometimes if they have a problem, they'll do it in the house because it's more often than you have normally.
Right. Because they may have, they can have a urinary tract infection. I mean, we're not medical people here, and so there are just so many reasons for any one particular.
Cats have a UTI.
Yeah.
I think Rosalind, our female dog, has had a couple of UTIs.
And then you want to feel on their body, and you want your dog to be used to body handling, and so because they'll get that at the vet's not going to be
shy.
So you want your dog to be used to being touched all over their body. And just get used to that yourself. It's for your pet's benefit.
I do that like every day in petting Oliver.
Right.
I
Yeah.
pet his belly, I pet his back, his
Yeah.
neck, and his.
Yeah, and a good opportunity to do that, especially because in our area, we're having Lyme disease, we're having ehrlichiosis, tick-borne diseases. So if you're doing if your dog has a tick and you get that tick off of that dog in 24 hours or less, from what I'm given to understand, the chances that your dog's going to pick up a tick-borne illness is very small.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be petting your dog, and as you're petting your dog, you will, look in their ears. You will feel underneath their front leg, armpit. You'll feel in what the inguinal area, underneath their back legs, where their legs meet their body.
I got one off Oliver last week.
Really?
Like, oh, what's that? Is that a new skin tag? And that's a tick.
What size was it? Good size or a little teeny one?
It was more than new.
Okay.
It was a couple days, maybe a day.
Okay. You want to check between their toes.
Oh, yeah.
You want to check underneath their collar. You want to check underneath their tail.
And it's easier with a short-haired dog.
Much easier, yeah. But with a long-haired dog particularly, you want them to be used to checking.
Down in there.
Right, very much. And that'll also tell you whether your dog has got... so anyway, then we'll go over then kind of what these different categories of symptoms. But the other way what's going on is a very big help for keeping your dog healthy is brush their teeth.
Just like us.
Yeah, that's right. Dental health is a bigger factor in our longevity, because if we get gum disease, that can go to our hearts, it can go to other organ systems. It's implicated in a lot of different illnesses. So if you start your dog off, or even right now, if you begin with your dog to do some oral care, you're going to keep the bacterial load in their bodies down. If you don't want to be right away brushing their teeth, there's this I'm not plugging Nylabone, but this worked pretty well for my dog. Nylabone foaming tartar remover. So there's a foam, you squeeze, then you just put your hand with this foam, and this tastes like what's natural green tea extract, fights bacteria. I think it has a minty.
So it'll probably make their breath smell good too.
Yeah, that helps. And if you're down close to your dog, you can then look at their gums and you go, yeah, that looks bad, Or if their breath is really particularly bad, that tells you. Or you can use these little, finger puppet brushes here and put something on it. And as long as they get used to you messing with their gums a little bit, it's just a desensitization and association process. Now, speaking of toothpaste, don't use human toothpaste, and this also relates to something you look for. A lot of human stuff, including human candy, is sweetened with xylitol, and that is poisonous as can be. Your dog gets a little bit of chocolate, depending on don't freak out too much. Look it up. How big's your dog? How much chocolate was it? Your dog gets
the higher the cocoa content, because you'll have 70-90% cacao, or you'll have that milk chocolate. Yeah. Milk chocolate's not so bad.
Yeah. So kind of you take some perspective. Call your vet. Hey, my dog is.
Did he eat the whole package?
Yeah,
or
right.
Did he just have a few M&Ms?
But talk with your vet. But the dog toothpaste does not have xylitol in it. It's appropriate for dogs. You also want to use a dog toothbrush, which is a little softer than most human toothbrushes, and you get these things that have a small end and a big end. So if you are walking your dog, even relatively short distances, if you're watching how they're moving, if you're watching what they're taking in and what their output is, you're feeling on their bodies.
And
you're going to pick up
temperature too.
Right.
Fever. I've noticed.
Right.
Fever.
You're going to feel that. Yeah, as long as you're doing.
Especially in where you get the skin.
Right. Right. And you can there are some thermometers you can get that are Those are like infrared thermometers or something. You just point it at the dog's ear, and it'll give you a reading without you having to, get a reading that would be more difficult. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it just your dog, anyway, but if you're touching your dog a lot, you're going to have a good idea of how warm they feel and what's unusual.
The other thing you can do too, talking about their mouth, if they seem in distress or if they don't feel good or something's changed, press on their gum,
right,
and see how quickly the blood comes back. If their gums are pale,
yeah,
and the blood doesn't come back,
right,
then they have a circulation problem or something else.
Right. So by, like you say, when you're looking at their gums, if they're pale and that sort of stuff, you know something's not right. So we'll go through some of this here. You can look this up on healthypets.mercola, mercola.com, and you would do a search for common health warning signs in dogs. And you're going to see as we go through these that, and this is written by Dr. Karen Becker, and the next one we'll refer to is
another thing. My big hairy dog
from
had a problem.
Marty Becker, two
Looking
Beckers.
through this, non-healing sores or wounds is
Good
hot
point.
spots.
Okay. Oh yeah. Right.
If they lick an area on them and
Right.
they're a big hairy guy,
Right.
or a mat, that's another good reason to
Right.
keep them brushed out.
Right.
If you have a mat, then the oxygen, the air can't get to that part of the skin.
You're going to get
and
some.
it gets wet.
Yeah.
And then the bacteria starts growing, and then
Right.
it just starts getting infected. So,
Right.
you can use powders and different things and shave it, cut the hair away so the air.
Basically, you do want to check with your vet. Here's
Yes.
what we've got.
I've had
Here's
to
what I'm
take 'em
thinking
a
of
few
doing,
times.
and yeah.
I've had to take him a few times for that.
So here are our Dr. Karen Becker's 14 health warning signs in dogs: skin, lumps, or bumps. Okay, so you monitor it if it's growing or changing quickly.
If it moves around easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Some of them are just fat.
Some of them are fatty tumors and so forth, and that's what mine has. But when you and so if it's changing quickly, then you want to get in there.
Right.
Like you said, if it's bleeding or non-healing, again, get in there. Obviously, number 2, sudden collapse. That's an emergency. Okay. Number 3, dramatic weight gain
Weight gain or loss.
Yeah, weight gain or loss. That. So you're going to see that. I mean, it's also so you're not only looking at your dog, but when you're feeling your dog, doing petting your dog and having them used to having their body handled or doing tick checks, you're going to know, hey, is my dog's weight and body shape changing? You don't want them to go if they're doing repeat vomiting. Call your vet. If they're off their
They
food
can have a
for
blockage or something.
Yeah, if they're off their food, Dr. Becker here says that can negatively impact their health within 24 hours. If they're off their food, there's probably a reason. Okay.
Yeah, one of our old dogs that we put down, he couldn't keep anything down, and I think what we found was he had a tumor that had grown so large that it stopped the output of the stomach.
Right.
But he was blind and he couldn't walk well, so it's like we had to make the decision.
Yeah. Changes in chewing, eating, and drinking habits. So that can be a dental or gum disease. Can be a broken tooth. So check that. Dogs that have excessive thirst can have diabetes. They get everything we get. They get non-healing sores or wounds.
But don't think you can give them your medicine.
No.
It's not always compatible. There are things that are compatible, but check with your vet.
Yeah, very much. Loss of energy, lethargic dogs who appear, they lethargic where they would usually be interested in things. They're indifferent. And speaking of body handling, if you touch something and they kind of pull away from it, that means that area is hurting. you know.
Oh, another thing that I learned with the dog I was just talking about, if their legs are trembling or they're, shaking, that's pain.
Yeah.
If they're panting,
Okay.
that's pain.
All right.
Or, panting can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But if they're panting not when they're hot and different things, or, you kind of know them.
Yeah. And
That's a signal.
good point. Bleeding or discharge from any orifice, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're supposed to
but
keep the blood in you.
You also want to, if you're looking at their bowel movements, if the blood is just like with people, if it's from high up in the GI tract, it'll be unusually dark, tarry, and if it's lower, it's going to be bright red. But in any case, if you're seeing blood, change in breath or body odor, persistent lameness, stiffness, or limping, difficulty breathing, urinating, or defecating.
I saw one here, cough.
Yeah,
cough. Can mean heart problems.
Right. Good point. Really good point. And vomiting or diarrhea.
Eating more than normal.
Yeah, eating more than normal. I mean, that can be all kinds of things, including some endocrine problems, pituitary problem, I think.
And the diarrhea thing I mentioned, giardia, that's hard to get rid of, and just don't let your dog drink out of any mud puddle.
Yeah, good point.
There are little critters
things
in there that can make them sick.
Right. And there are dog flus that are going around these days, so you want to, when they're having labored breathing and, there are some dog flus that are getting pretty serious. I think one of them was known in Chicago.
Tick problems were the
ehrlichiosis. Well, as far as mobility, that can cause very shifting joint problems because they can be limping in there with their left leg and then their right leg and then the front and hind, and it's a bacteria that's related to the syphilis bacteria. Excessive drinking, panting, scratching, or urination, possible. Bladder infection, metabolic disease such as Cushing's or diabetes. Okay.
And that's one thing I'd like to maybe end on is getting a dog and affording a dog. If you can't afford the health care and you plan on neglecting your dog, don't get it. The dog is going to be more than just feeding and putting collars on them and stuff like that. They do need yearly checkups and maintenance things, and as they grow older, they'll get injured or whatever.
Yeah, and if you can't do Cadillac care, do the best you can in terms of prevention. Also, if you want to see swelling and hives and that sort of stuff, you want to be aware of that. They can get snake bites and spider bites and so forth. So another one to look at is Dr. Marty Becker on vetstreet.com. How do you know when it's really an emergency? So we covered a lot and hope it's been useful. So be aware of your dog. When you see something that looks weird and it's in one of these areas, give your vet a call.
Give them a check out.
And a lot of vets have a 24-hour service. If they're not on call, then they're working in cooperation with other vets who can respond to you.
Okay, thanks for watching and have fun with your dog.